Hi you guys, my name is Brittany and welcome to my Boldly Rise YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing another DIY with jute twine. Now I know I've done a few videos already, or a handful of videos using jute twine, but you guys, there's so much you could do with this and it's so cheap. And they're really good to use with so many different things, and they fit with really good styles, different decor styles. It's just kind of a natural look, and I'm really enjoying using it. It's like I said, it's really cheap to do these DIY projects. They are a little time consuming, but they are way worth it in the end. So today we're going to be doing a tissue box. Now, here, I'll show you it again. I have looked online for different tissue boxes, for Kleenex boxes, but I just was not finding ones that I really liked. And I didn't want ones that could break really easily, like the ceramic kinds. I didn't want those kind of Kleenex box covers. And so I decided I'm going to make my own. So I made my own. This is what it looks like. This is the end result I'm showing you before I get into it, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. But I'm going to show you step by step how to do it. It's really easy. It's just kind of similar to the same ways that we made the jute twine flower pots or plant pots, if you've seen those videos. So it's super easy, very cheap, but it does take some time. But you guys, look at this. The end result is really good, and I cannot wait to put this downstairs in our living room, just to, you know, cover up this really bright, I don't know if I can, that really bright green. You see? Yeah. So look, totally different. So I will show you step by step how to do it, and we will get right into it. So let's get started. So I'm going to show you some of the items that I will be using in this tutorial that you will want as well if you're going to do this on your own. You'll want your Kleenex boxes, but you're going to want them to be the sizes that you typically buy from the store. So like these two are ones that I normally buy, but I don't want to use a Kleenex box that I don't normally buy, because this is going to be something that I'll be using continually. So you just want to make sure that you're going to be using the Kleenex box size that you normally use. And then you'll need your cardboard. We're going to be using that as the shell, the inner shell of the that the jute twine is going to be attached to on the outside. And then you'll need a box cutter for it. We do have scissors here, but we're going to be using that for the jute twine. You definitely don't want to try and use scissors on the cardboard. It's super hard. But this will save you so much time, so much effort. And these are really like a couple dollars from the store. So if you don't have one, I highly encourage you to invest in one, because it'll help you go through this project a lot easier. Then you're also going to need a pen or a pencil, something that you can use to draw on the cardboard box as you outline the Kleenex box that you're using. And then you're going to need a hot glue gun and some glue refills. We're going to be using that for the twine. And then your scissors and your jute twine. And then you also want something like a paper towel to put the hot glue gun on, so when it drips, it's not getting on something that you actually don't want it to drip on. So that is all the items that we will be using, and now that we have that, let's get started. So our first step is to cut out the cardboard. So you're going to take your Kleenex box. I'll start off with the small one. So you're going to take that, you're going to take your pen, and all you're going to be doing is just outlining everything. So we're going to want every single side cut out. It can be individual. It doesn't have to be consecutive. So I'm going to get started on this. Okay, side note, it's definitely easier to use a pencil than a pen. So just to let you know, I'm going to switch over to a pencil now. Okay, so now that I have all of the sides traced and drawn out on the cardboard, that's when I'm going to take my cardboard box cutter and I'm going to cut out the squares. Now, when you're using this, this will go through really quickly, and if you see how long that blade is, it can cut the surface underneath the cardboard. So what I'm doing is I have this cardboard is folded so that there's another sheet of cardboard underneath it, so it's not going to actually cut up the carpet. So just be mindful of that when you are doing this, and then just start, you know, cutting away. All right, so we have all of our pieces that we need cut. They don't have to be perfect because you're not really going to see this. This is just, like I said, the inner shell for it. We just want to make sure that it is big enough so that it will cover the outside of the Kleenex box. We're actually going to be using packing tape. I changed my mind part of the way through, just realized that this would be easier and that the original idea I had was not going to work. So, but this is what happens when you do DIYs. You just learn as you go, sometimes figure it out as you go, and that's what we're doing here. So we're going to be using packing tape instead of super glue. So the reason why I say packing tape too is because it'll stick better than the like Scotch tape or something like that. So some type of durable tape, whether it's duct tape or packing tape, whatever it may be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the pieces that we cut out, and we're going to use this as like our little guide, and we're going to start putting the pieces together. Okay, so here's something else that I wanted to note too. You see that big gap? That's okay. We'd rather have a gap than not, because if we make it too tight, then it's like we're gonna struggle actually, you know, fitting it over the Kleenex box if it's too tight. So it's okay to have that little bit of wiggle room in there. Don't worry about that if it does happen. So now I'm just checking to make sure that it actually does, like I can fit it over the top. And so when I do actually use it, it's doing its job. So yeah, that fits. It should work. It should work just fine. I also wanted to show you too, I did cut a top and a bottom piece, but I only need one because we want the bottom open so that it can actually, you know, go in and out. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of like try and draw my own little circle on here because there's no way to like trace it or anything. So I'm just gonna kind of draw my own thing, and that way the Kleenex can actually still come up and out. I'm actually using my coffee cup to kind of trace a good circle. So all right, we have a circle. So if you can see here, I'm just kind of like pressing in. Here, I'll try and show it. You like stick it in and you're just kind of working your way through it. It's not like a straight line one where we can just go, but it is easier to just kind of saw your way through it. And so that's what I'm doing if you couldn't see. All right, so we're just gonna pop this out and hopefully that will work for the top of our Kleenex box. Okay, so there we go. There is our top. Not too bad. That's not too shabby. So now we're going to, actually I need that back. Now we're gonna do the same thing that we were doing with this. We're gonna tape this on. Okay, so now we have our little shell for our Kleenex box. And then we're just gonna pull that out. Now this is what we're going to be using to put the jute twine around. So when you are attaching the twine to this shell, we're going to continue using the Kleenex box just so we can, just so it's not like moving all over the place, and we have something sturdy to attach the twine against. So we're going to move on to our next step. Okay, so for this step, we are going to be braiding our twine. It's going to be a really simple braid, really easy. We're going to do a really quick style of braid. If you have watched any of my other videos using jute twine, when you do really small braids, it takes a really long time. It looks really good, but it takes a long time. So we're just going to do a really simple, thicker braid today, and I'll show you how to do that. You're going to take some strands that are about 3 feet or less in length. And the reason why I say that is because when you are braiding, it starts kind of getting tangled at the bottom as your twine is kind of going all over the place. So the shorter it is, the easier it is to maintain that and control that. And so I've just kind of found that about 3 feet is a maximum kind of length to be able to control that entanglement at the bottom. So we're going to do 9 strands to make 1 braid. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of meet, I don't know if you can see this, kind of meet the ends here. So we've got 1 long one, and then I'm going to go back over it, and I'm going to go again. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. And we're going to do that 9 times. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 strands. Then you want to take your scissors and cut these. You're going to cut those little loops. So we're going to cut them. Make sure you cut all of them. That one's a little short. Whoops. And then you're going to cut the end string. Okay, and then you're going to do that to the other side too. You're just going to cut all those loops. Okay, so they're all-ish kind of the same length. So what you're going to do is going to tie a knot up at the top. And there we go. So you can have 2 options. You can use a clipboard, or you can use like a stool or some thin legs, some like desk legs, or this is just a little stool that I have. Dresser drawers, like handles, work really well. Now what you're going to do is you're going to break this up into thirds. So 3 strands each. So now you have your 3 individual strands, 1, 2, 3, and that's how we'll make our braid. Okay, so when you reach the bottom, you're just gonna tie a temporary knot. We are gonna be cutting these knots off later, so they don't have to be super tight, just enough to kind of hold the braid from falling out. And then you are just going to repeat that process over and over. So this is what the braid looks like that I'll be using. Just a really simple braid. Here's a little tip. If you want to just keep going with this, doing the loops of the strands over and over and over again, like right here I have my 9, but I'm going to actually just keep doing the loops over and over again, and that way I don't have to keep repeating this process. I can just separate and then braid, separate and braid, instead of have to start with the looping. I can just get it all done at once. Okay, so now that we've finished all of our strands, we're going to put it on, or glue it on the box now. I have about 13 strands here. They're about the 3 foot in length like I had mentioned before, so hopefully I won't need any more than this, but we will see as we go on. And this is a good DIY project to do as you go. It's not like you have to have these strands completely ready before you start gluing. You can, if you run out of strands and you need more, then you can go back, cut some more, jute twine and make your braids again, and then continue adding as you go. So we're heating up the hot glue gun over here, and then we're going to get this glued on. So what we're going to be doing first is taking our scissors, and we're cutting off these knots. So if you tied your knot really, really tight and you can't undo it, then just snip it right there. But if you have made a looser knot, you can undo it, because sometimes your braid gets done in that little knot, and so I have like an extra inch of braid after undoing that knot. So that just saves a little bit more, gives you a little bit more braid to work with. So that's what I'm doing. But any knots that I've tied too tight, then I'll just cut right off. So we're gonna cut this right at the top of that braid, and it'll unravel a little tiny bit, but that's okay, because we are going to glue it all down, so it's not going to be an issue for us. All right, so I'm gonna start on the sides, and then I'm going to do the top last. So I'm going to be working around like this, and you can do any pattern you want. If you wanted to, you can do up and down and up and down, but I'm gonna do all the way around, so less cutting for me. Okay, so you take your hot glue gun, and you're gonna dab a little bit on your corner. So we're gonna dab enough to let all of this get covered. So we want to make sure that we're not gonna have any loose ends fraying later on as time goes on. So you just kind of want to dab a little bit of glue. You don't want too much though, to where you can start seeing the hot glue coming through. Like, I don't know if you can see that right there, but you can kind of see a little bit of hot glue, and I don't like that, so I'm gonna mess with that a little bit later. But you don't want too much glue, because then the glue will seep up through it all, and that just doesn't look good. So I'm gonna try and keep it close to the top as I can, and then you're gonna just take your hot glue gun and do a nice little line. I'm gonna try going all the way, but you don't wanna go too far, because this hot glue really does dry quickly. So if you can do a line long enough and get it laid down before it dries, then that is totally fine. So whatever works for you. All right, and then I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep doing my lines of glue and laying down that twine, and that's that. So basically, now that we're done, we don't want it to keep, or we're done with the first row, we don't want to keep going over it, because that would defeat the purpose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna really make sure that this edge is really stuck right here, because we're going to kind of maneuver it later to go down like this. But if I do that right now, then that corner is gonna be showing. So I don't want that corner showing. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, I don't want this corner showing. So I'm gonna glue it down first, and then I'll manipulate it to go down and under. Okay, so see how it kind of covered that corner a little bit better than if I had just kind of pushed it over in the beginning. That just helps cover that up. And then hopefully once we do cover this top, we're not gonna see any of the cardboard at all. So now that we're coming to the end of this twine, I'm going to, if I can, undo this knot. If not, you just can cut it off. And then make sure part of it is down, and then I'm going to, actually, I could just braid it a little more to use some more of that twine. Okay, so I'm going to take my scissors and cut off that end piece right there. So I'm gonna cut that off. Doesn't have to look the most beautiful. Okay. So that's cut off, and I'm going to lay my glue down, and we'll lay this down. Now we're going to do that same dab of glue that we did to start off in the beginning. We're going to dab it with some glue and lay all those edges down to touch the glue so that it's not going to be fraying later on. Start the next strand. We're kind of going to overlap these two. Sorry, I got glue on my hands. Okay, so I'm going to take my next strand, and now that I'm working on this next strand, I'm going to kind of overlap the end of the first strand with the beginning of this next strand. I'm going to put a little dab of glue on top of the end of the first strand, and then we'll kind of lay it down. That way it's kind of consecutive a little bit. It's not so like a huge straight line of stuff that's not braided. Man, this glue is getting all over my fingers. I do want to point out too, when you are laying your next strand of the jute twine, you want to kind of, when you lay your glue down, push the twine down, the braided twine down, and kind of push up at the same time so it meets the bottom of this top strand, because otherwise you're going to get a weird gap in between, and like I said, our goal is to try and not see any of the cardboard. Okay, so I'm gonna try something, and I tried it just earlier to see if it would work, and it kind of does, is underneath the braid, if you put a little dab of glue kind of where all three strands will connect. It's a little harder when it's underneath it, but if you put a little dab of glue right there and just kind of let it dry for a second, and then take your scissors and cut like right underneath it, and I'm gonna put some extra glue down. Then it stays a little bit better than when it was fraying from before, and it stays. It looks a little bit nicer, I think. Okay, so now that we are at the end, this is like the last little line that I'll need to do. I'm going to put a strip of glue down here, but I'm going to end it on top of this line of twine. That way it's not like overhanging at the end, but I can kind of just end it kind of like that so that it's a little pretty. Okay, so now we've finished the sides. That is what the side looks like. It's looking pretty good, not too shabby. Now we're going to do the top part of this. So I'm going to go make some more braids because I'm out, and then we will come back and do the top. Okay, so I am back at this a couple weeks later. I ran out of jute twine to finish the top, but I was finally able to get some, and now I can finish this up and finish showing you guys how to do this tissue box, this jute twine tissue box. So I braided a couple more of these strands, and basically what we're going to do here is it's going to be like a two-step process to do this top portion. So we're going to be taking our strands and cutting them as we did kind of on the sides, but we're going to be kind of layering them across. Well, not layering, but we're going to be, you know, putting them across, but we're going to be cutting them so that they fit on these little portions. So that's our first step, is to just cover this top. But because it's going to have all the cut ends open and potentially fraying, we don't want that. So we're going to take, for the second step, we're going to take a whole one of these and we're going to put it on the edges just like this, so it kind of covers the ends of all of the cuts that we make on the top. And then we're also going to be doing one in the circle. So we're going to be making this circular. So those are our two steps. We're going to lay everything across, and then step two, we're going to cover up those cut ends so that they don't fray, and so that we can cover it and make it look good. So I'm going to get into that, and I will show you guys how I do this. Okay, now we have that first step done, and as you can see, there are uneven edges, and this isn't really pretty looking right now, just because those edges are just all over the place, and that's why we're going to add those strands in the second step, the strand right around here and in the center, because it will cover that and it'll kind of bring it all together and wrap it all into one nice thing and make it really organized looking and just finished. Okay, so now for the second step, we have our two pieces of twine, braided strands for the center circle and the outside square. So I made mine longer than I actually need it to be, because, well, one, I want to make sure that I have enough so I'm not having to redo it, but I'm also just going to make it easier and not have to cut off the ends quite yet, because I really want to focus on getting the ends covered, and kind of making everything look put all together. So we're going to do that, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Okay, that is it. The only thing that I'm going to do now is just kind of trim off like some of the little pieces in here. I'm going to trim off those just to make it look better and all put together, and then we'll be done. This is why you want really sharp scissors, because it's really hard getting in there, but we did it, and so there we go. And that is it, friends. This is the final piece. I'm going to go around and just kind of get rid of some of the glue spots, like this little corner up here. I don't want that, so we're just going to snip that off, get some of that glue off, and that's it. This is the final product like you saw at the beginning of the video. Super simple, super cheap, just a little time consuming, but really is worth it. I mean, I really did not spend hardly anything on this, and it looks really good. So that is it, friends. I hope you guys liked this, and I hope the step-by-step was easy to understand, easy to see. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel right now so that you can stay updated with more DIY projects and home decor tips and tricks and ideas just to help you around your house without having to spend a ton of money. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!